managers here at ATCO Group US. I'm running the topic here actually from sunny California and Pasadena, Los Angeles. The topic that I want to talk a little bit about today is time management. I want to talk a little bit about how you can improve your time management skills, why it's important to improve your time management skills, and I guess a few little tips at the end, to really manage your day to make sure that you're as effective as you possibly can, especially within your first week within the business. So, I mean, the first thing to kind of touch on, I guess, is for your first week within the company, especially when you've been given your stage 1 COD booklet, time management, it can almost look like there's a lot of things on there that you have to kind of learn, grasp and master, learning from sales to pitching people for the first time, confidence. And if it was anything like my first week, it can almost seem a bit overwhelming and almost a bit, over your head as such. Learning to manage your time and learning to compartmentalize each individual part and focus on each part, until you get it right, is really the only way to actually master a skill, is to practice it and learn it. The other point, I guess, before we get started is to understand the difference between you and your leader, or anybody else that you're working with that has more experience than you, that may be better than you and doing more sales than you or have a better attitude than you, is really just due to the fact of, like what I just said, their experience. Someone, if you practice a skill time and time again, you get better at it. So what we want to try and do is make sure, especially in your first week, that you have optimum amount of your time that's being used effectively to actually master skills that can actually help you not just get better at sales, but progress you to be a good leader, and then inevitably help you, build a crew and build your business further on down the line. So I think the first point, getting stuck into the points, is to understand that you want to make sure that each day is effective and that you have a plan. So I think point number 1 is to have a plan for the day. And whether that be you plan in the morning or whether you plan in the evening, I like to plan in the evening just because it gives my mind, I guess, a bit of time to think about it subconsciously at night. But having a focus and having a plan and having an actual goal and knowing what you actually want to work on is so important, because then you don't get caught up in all the distractions as your day passes along. It's a lot like going to the gym. And if you have a certain routine and you know exactly what you want to work on, whether it be chest and triceps on a Monday and then maybe legs on a Tuesday or your back on a Wednesday, by having some kind of structure and having some kind of focus, what it does is it actually allows you, when you actually then go to the gym, is to put 120% into that particular exercise, as opposed to sometimes getting drawn to your favorite exercise machine as such, or generally something you think that's a little bit easier. So make sure you have a plan, and make sure you're sitting down with your leader at night or in the morning, like I said, to have a specific plan of how you can really utilize your time effectively. Okay. The second point then, I think, is once you've figured out exactly what it is that you want to work on, is apply yourself to the 100% rule. So the second point is the 100% rule, and basically what that means is whatever you do, you just need to apply yourself 100% to that task at hand. So if you are, planning, for example, 100% focus on planning. When you start prime time, if your plan was to, get a better close, for example, in prime time, all you will be doing is focusing on getting a better close. Whether that be pitching with the high rollers or learning mechanics behind the pitch or toughening up your attitude, your whole 100% focus should be just on your close and nothing else. And then the same thing applies for, when you're in a leaders meeting, or if you're in a morning meeting, be 100% in the morning meeting. And when you're in the field, be 100% in the field. If you're talking to a customer, 100% with the customer. And what that allows to do is that if you follow the 100% rule, which is sometimes easier said than done, it allows you to then free your mind up for other tasks, because you know that you can't think about the task that you didn't do when you weren't thinking about it. It's a lot like people, what they do sometimes throughout their first week is they just think, what am I going to do on the weekend? And then when they're on the weekend, they're just thinking about what they should have done in work that week. Whereas it's a lot easier that when you're at work or when you're in the field or when you're talking to a customer, to be 100% there, so that when you're on the weekend, you can be 100% on the weekend and chill out and have fun. Okay? So that's the 100% rule. I think it's very important. The next thing, point number 3, is make sure that you're using the resources around you. It takes a lot of time, I guess, sometimes to learn sales if you're just trying to learn it by yourself, because you have to try and figure out your own systems, your own pitch, your own close, your own impulsing, as such. When you actually copy somebody else, the path has already been laid out in front of you, you just have to copy it. So spend as much time as you can networking with other people around you, at every stage and every skill that you're trying to get better at. So the equivalent of, most offices have anywhere between 5 to 10 to 15 bell ringers a night. So let's say you just look at 5 bell ringers at the end of the evening. If you go and speak to all 5 and just ask them for one little tip on how do you have a good day in the field, or how did you ring the bell, and you do that every single day throughout the week, if you speak to 5 people over a week times 5 days, that's going to equal 25 extra tips that you're going to get at the end of the week. It might not seem like a big deal, but then over the course of the month, that's 100 extra tips that you've had, which inevitably is going to put you in a better situation than the person that hasn't had those 100 tips. So I guess it's all those small things that you can do to kind of make sure that you get all that information that you need. But again, going back to that other point I just said before, the 100% rule, and also the planning point, if you're not planning and you don't have 100% focus on what you're trying to get better at, sometimes you just get caught up in the day-to-day, conversations with leaders, or maybe you talk about something you shouldn't be talking about, or you're learning a skill that necessarily isn't relevant to the situation that you're at. So make sure that you're doing that and you're networking with people too. The fourth point, I think, is at the end of the day, is also making sure that you spend a lot of time actually going through your COD and actually looking at what area you need to work on and what's the best area that you need to focus on, not just for now but for next week. Because by having a plan of what you're going to do next week or over the next couple of days, again allows you to focus 100% on what you're doing now, because it has a knock-on effect further on down the line. Again, to kind of close off the topic, you've got to understand that everybody that comes into an office has the same environment around them, has the same time. Most people tend to get in the office at exactly the same time. They listen to the same leaders meeting at the same time, same morning meeting at the same time, spend exactly the same amount of time in the field, although sometimes the results vary. Sometimes people get promoted to leadership in a very short space of time and then go on to build big crews and get themselves promoted, whereas some people unfortunately never really seem to grasp sales or never really seem to grasp the essence of leadership. And again, it's not to do with the fact that they haven't spent the time, it's more about how effective they were with their time. And again, last little analogy to kind of end off, it's a lot like the gym. If you go to the gym and it takes you half an hour to get to the gym, and you spend 20 minutes getting changed and talking to your friends in the changing room, you kind of go around the gym not really knowing what you want to work on, what kind of, if you're going to do running or cardio, and you just do a bit of everything, and then you go and sit in the jacuzzi for an hour and sit in the sauna for another hour. You could argue the fact that you've been in the gym for 3 hours. But again, the next person will go in, they won't take any time, they won't be messing around, they won't be talking, they know exactly what muscle group they want to work on, or their cardio, or whatever they want to do, and they will just apply themselves 100%, focusing on the workout and until it hurts or until they can't do any more, and then they leave. So they will spend half the time in the gym, but actually get way more out of it, as opposed to someone else who spent 3 hours as such in the gym, can almost tell themselves that the time is actually what's actually made them successful. But in reality, it's not the time that makes anyone successful, it's what you do with your time. So just make sure that, especially in your first week, that you're trying to use as much time as you possibly can on anything that's going to improve your skills, anything that's going to improve your situation, and anything that's really going to help you move forward. And at the same time, still have fun and still enjoy yourself, but just make sure that the balance is correct and that you're really trying to develop yourself and learn your skills. Because when you're new, you have to learn skills. You have to practice a lot more than all the other experienced leaders, so make sure that you're putting that effort in. So again, if you manage your time effectively in the morning, so just to recap the points, and you have that effectiveness, so you have a plan, you know exactly what you want to work on, and when you come in the morning in prime time, you are 100% focused on that plan. When you go to the field, you're 100% focused on the customer and also thinking about what it was that you were implementing for that day. You assess at the end of the day if it was correct or not, if it worked, get with some of the high rollers and some people that can help you develop that skill, and then plan again what you're going to learn for the next day and look at your COD and think, where's the next stage, how can I keep progressing? If you do that day after day after day after day, again, a lot like the gym, if you go to the gym every single day again and again and again and again and eat the right food, you don't see the changes bit by bit. It's only 2 months, 3 months, 4 months when you see someone that you haven't seen for a while and you're almost shocked at the fact that, man, you look really muscly, or you've lost a lot of weight. But it's all the small things that they're doing on a day-to-day basis that don't really seem to be noticeable to the human eye, but as they build up, you can. So it's the same thing here. You see people kind of get progressed, they promote to to leadership, and then they start building a crew and they start building a team. And it looks on the surface like they're doing the same thing. They're showing up, they're going to the field, they're ringing the bell, but there's all these small little things that they're doing